So the West Coast Himalayan build has started. We've got wheels to put on. We got emulators to put in the front forks. We've got a Hagen shock to put in the rear, and we have a Hitchcocks carburetor kit to put on. It's going to be a long day, but I think we'll pull it off. We'll see.
Not too hot.
It's not too hot today. You're right. Okay, so a few minutes later, we have the airbox battery holder. It's all one piece. Battery box, airbox, all the same. It goes out that way. So, in case you're wondering, gives you full access to the shock. Do you need to really take it off? Actually, I think you do, because I don't think you can get to this nut with the airbox in the way. But since we're taking this off, we decided to pull the airbox off, which I don't know that you have any option but to do that. Anyway, that was two people working 15 minutes. Not too bad. Take pictures or videos so you know how to put it back together. Let's see. Fuel injection off is next. Okay, we're starting to button things back up. It's been an interesting process. The actual shock install itself wasn't too bad. You're gonna have to set your sag. Excuse my seat. You're gonna have to set your sag before you put the rear fender liner in. In the future, to set your sag, you'll just remove the 4 bolts that holds the inner fender liner in and pop it off, and then you'll have access right there. Carburetor install wasn't too bad. Gonna have to make a bracket for the regulator. It won't fit behind the carburetor like the instructions said that it would. We'll visit that at another time. Anyway, we're just gonna keep going, see what happens. Well, it's back together. See what happens. Here comes a test rider. Actually, we already started it. The Hitchcock guys had the carburetor dialed right in. I had to adjust the idle just a tiny bit and the air screw.
Fuel on?
Yep, turn the fuel on. It's on reserve because there's not much gas. Well, we just put a gallon in, but still. Throttle response is way better. Okay, so after a couple test rides, we're back in the garage. Just wanted to go over the install of the carburetor really quick. It was actually pretty straightforward. You need to take your side panels off, your seats off, the gas tank off, and it helps to remove the fender liner. 4 bolts take that off. There's one over here, and 2 down low. That way you can pull the airbox out the rear, and it gives you all the room you need to install the carb. I'm not sure. I don't know that this carburetor's been installed on a 2022 model yet, or US model anyway. And the where they mount the regulator, rectifier, on the 2022 is right in the way. Let's see if I can get that. So there's the bracket back there. That used to be mounted to that, which would be right where the carburetor's sitting right now. So for now, it's just sitting up here zip tied right there with the insulator. We're gonna mount it on the other side in front of the battery box. There's enough room for it over there. So that'll be the next project once we get it torn back apart. But the install, once you get the side panels, gas tank, seat, and fender liner off, it's pretty quick. You'll take the airbox out. You'll remove the rubber boot from the airbox because the kit comes with a new rubber boot for the carburetor. You'll remove the throttle body boot from the head and install the head that comes with the kit. you'll remove the throttle cable and install the throttle cable that comes with the carburetor. The choke lever cable, the what do they call that thing? Bi-throttle, that never really worked on mine. You disconnect that, and I just zip tied it up underneath the fuel tank. I took the ends off. There's a little plunger basically. When you rotate this lever up here, all it does is pull a plunger up and allow air to bleed in. That's really all it does. Creates an air leak, so it increases the speed of the bike. So if you are one of those guys who, when you roll on your choke or bi-throttle or whatever you want to call that thing, and it kills the bike, to me that tells me that you're already running too lean, because you're creating an air leak and instantly it dies because the fuel injection can't keep up. But that's another story. I think the bikes run way too lean as it is, and therefore there's a carburetor on mine. Anyway, so back to the install. Once you get the boot on the head, you install the carburetor into the boot, put on the clamp, hook up your fuel line. It comes with a throttle body cable extension right there. The T, we used to have to adjust the throttle position sensor, but the carburetor comes with a new one. And there it is. And now it's connected to the ECU. That's the fuel line there, and the choke there. On the other side, let's slide it around on our scooter. Of course, the bracket's in the way. You have your idle screw adjustment here, idle mixture screw adjustment, and the idle speed adjustment right there. Not really much going on this side. You'll mount that bracket up there to zip tie the fuel line to. That's exactly what the bracket's for, to keep the fuel line here away from the cylinder head. You will pull out your fuel pump and replace it with that plate. And on that plate, you'll install that petcock, and then you'll install the supplied fuel line that comes with the kit over to the carburetor from the petcock. After you get all that hooked up, then you're gonna start putting your airbox back in with the new rubber boot. And let's see, am I missing anything? After you secure all your clamps, hook up your carburetor, your fuel rather, to your carburetor, turn on your fuel, pull the choke out, and mine started right up like it was made for it. The guys at Hitchcocks did a really good job. And you can see here the kind of the cobbed up, the rectifier is kind of zip tied to the starter motor for now. We're gonna mount it on the other side of this pipe here. There's a nice space underneath here, right about there. I'm gonna see about putting it right there. Let's see, is there anything else am I missing? You're gonna use the stock airbox with the stock filter, the stock filter cover, unless you have one of those DNA filters, you wanna use that, because now you would have jetting options. I'm running the stock jets that came with it. People have said that I wanna go one up on the Pilot, one up on the main. So I went ahead and ordered those from Hitchcock. We'll give them a try. Getting the carburetor off is really not that difficult now that I've done it. It's involved because you've got to turn it sideways and slide it back. But it's a learning process. Let's see. I think that's really, I want to say all there is to it, but that pretty much covers it all. Everything apart, fender liner out, airbox off, remove fuel injection system, install the boot, install the carb, install the airbox with its boot, remove the fuel pump, install the block off plate, install the petcock. Oh, there is block off, or whatever you want to call them, plugs that you plug in to where the fuel pump used to go, the fuel pump harness. Also the injector, that simulates the injector and the fuel pump still being in the circuit so that you don't trigger a check engine light, and it works fine. I do not have my O2 sensor installed. I have a simulator on that as well to keep the ECU happy, since obviously the ECU is not controlling fueling anymore. It does, I believe, use the throttle position sensor though for timing. So that's why there's a throttle position sensor on the carburetor, all right, on the butterfly. Let's see, what else? I think that's really about it. I try to do a better job of running my fuel vent line down so that it doesn't get pinched up there. But we'll see how that goes. While I had mine apart, I had access to the shock, so I went ahead and replaced the shock with a Hagen shock from the UK. That was pretty nice. They preset the spring compression preload to a 210-pound rider. I bolted it up and checked the sag, and it was spot on. Those guys are pretty good. The dampening adjustments on that end, right there, Allen screw. I just set it in the middle for now. Going down the highway, it feels more like you're on a cloud than you were before. You're just kind of floating along with good dampening. It feels more like my Africa Twin, which has a fully adjustable shock on the back. You know, less like this Versus to the right, which had the same sort of shock that was on the Himalayan. And tomorrow we take off wheels, install the Excel racing wheels, tubeless, and we're gonna install emulators in the front forks from Racetech. So hopefully by Monday we've got a pretty decked out Himalayan here. And then we'll do a follow-up video with the emulators and rims put on. Sorry. It's been a long day, kind of tired. It's funny, it doesn't seem like it's that much work, but when you really get into the bike and start ripping things apart and you have it all apart, it's a big job, putting it all back together. Putting it back together right. In this case, putting it back together better than it was before, because for some reason, my Himalayan, I think, was built on Friday, but they just shoved everything in, not even in the holders, for the electronics. They're just shoved in under the seat between the fender liner and the battery box and the air box. They were shoved down in the cracks. They weren't even on the holders. On this side, the starter motor solenoid wasn't even on its holder. It was just dangling, hanging down. Pretty bad. I don't know what happened. Like I said, I think my bike was built on Friday night, and they wanted to go home. And well, I guess that's about it for now. Definitely no buyer's remorse on the carburetor kit. I freaking love it. The bike sounds better. It runs better. It seems to pull harder when you do a roll-on between 2,000 and 4,000. Not much going on after 4,500 to 6,500. I mean, it's the same as it was. Maybe pulls a little better, but it feels like it could possibly use a little bit more fuel up top. So that's why I ordered more jets. I ordered a one size larger main jet and a one size larger pilot jet from Hitchcocks, just for that reason. But the bike starts really good when it's cold. Pull out choke, hit the button, boom, starts up, idles at 2,000. When you feel it's warm enough, click off the choke and drive away. It idles perfectly at about 1,200 RPM, even lower if you want, but I think 1,200 is probably a good spot for everyday driving. Lower idle off-road might be more prone to stalling, and I don't want that. That just causes you to tip over. We don't want to tip over. So yeah, it's for now it's good. Heck, it's actually great. Loving it even more. Anyway, you guys have a good one. Ride safe.